Greetings, it's I, Dracovin, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome one and all. Are you ready for another exciting day where we're going to talk about the Pathfinder world of Golarion? Today we're diving into another country you can visit, and this one's going to have some spoilers to it, as we are going to be talking about the country of Ravounel, a country that was formed after the Hell's Rebels adventure path. So if you're going to play Hell's Rebels, well, this is the canon ending of it. But if you are going in some things related to that area post Hell's Rebels, well, you want to join me learning all about that. So yes, expect some spoilers today, but if you're of course joining me live on Twitch, hey, Twitch is over there. If you're joining me later on YouTube, hey YouTube, remember, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, all that kind of great things. Have you done Hell's Rebels? Have you been to Ravounel? Those are the questions for today, because that's interesting, whether you've done the adventure path or just use that country in one of your adventures now post there, especially in 2nd edition. So, why don't we talk about some books which are important to knowing about Ravounel? Because I'd like to talk about that first, and I'm going to say the most important books of all are the very most obvious one of all this, and that is, of course, the Hell's Rebels. And now I'm just showing off the player's guide here, but a number of adventures in Hell's Rebels deal with this region and the capital of this place, Kintargo. Kintargo is the capital of our new nation of Ravounel. And it is very much related to the country then. So, yeah, it's very important. It's seen a lot in Hell's Rebels, and the other place where you can see the canon ending, where they talk about it, is, of course, the Lost Omens World Guide from 2nd edition. So that will give you your two views of it. You'll see the 1st edition kind of version of it, and then see the 2nd edition of it. And welcome, everybody. Remember, we're talking about some Pathfinder today, so keep to the topic until we're done. Alright, let's talk about Ravounel. And I'm using this image of Cheliax pre-Hell's Rebels, just to give you an idea. Ravounel, during this time period, was a county, basically, or territory, region of Cheliax. You can see Kintargo on that map there. It became this confederation located in southwestern Avastian. It was an archduchy, but it succeeded and became independent in 4717. By common times in the Pathfinder calendar, in what it is in the actual world of Golarion, if you pick up an adventure now, it's 4724. That means 7 years it's been its own country. It doesn't mean it's not been its own settled region, but they're a burgeoning country on their own. So just keep that in mind when we talk about everything here, that they have just been this separate thing than anything else for a very short period of time. Now, what has been in this region? Because this region has been part of Cheliax. Well, in 3007 AR, when Taldor founded the province of Cheliax, the region of Ravounel did not officially become part of the Empire due to a clerical error. This error was, of course, corrected, and Ravounel remained an unofficial territory of Taldor and later Cheliax, after it succeeded in 4081. So for the first 1,000 years, it was kind of on its own. When Cheliax plunged into civil war after the death of Eredin, Ravounel insisted on independence and became home to many anti-Thrun dissidents, something that House Thrun saw as treason. When Abigail Thrun I signed her contract with Asmodeus, they hired the Philistophilis Odexdai to provide her with an escape clause in the supporting document known as the Kintargo Contract. So, Odexdai subsequently added some legal wriggling room. Since Ravounel was officially not part of Cheliax, its leader had to be appointed and ratified by a board of governors. If Abigail was to lose control over Cheliax, she could relocate to Kintargo and bribe its governors into ratifying her as Lord Mayor, and if her family or the Church of Asmodeus were to move against Ravounel, they would void the entire contract and lose Asmodeus' support. When the Imperial Ministry of Historical Accuracy revisited Cheliax history to further Thrun's ends after Ravounel fell under Thrun's control in 4640, They also expunged the clerical errors concerning Ravounel's official status. In the end, Ravounel never needed this contingency and took the secret to hell when she died. During the years of the Thrun rule, the people of Ravounel feigned loyalty on the surface but secretly remained rebellious. Then we get into the 4715. After the glorious reclamation rose up against House Thrun, Braziel Thrun volunteered to take charge of Inkars, one of the current Thrun's cousins, distant, take charge of enforcing martial law in Kintargo and the entire Archduchy of Ravounel. As soon as he arrived, Braziel paid the local Kuthanite temple to abduct Gilia Ballis and transform into a vampire against her will. 3 days later, Braziel and his agents struck against all known suspected dissidents, driving them off or killing them. He also enacted 7 unjust and darkly whimsical new laws to which all Kintar's citizens would have to abide. In response to this tyranny, a group of adventurers resurrected the old Silver Ravens, deposed him, uncovered the loophole within the Kintara contract. In the process, they allowed Ravounel to secede from Cheliax in 4717 without the threat of military invasion from its former country. At the same time, Vir, we'll talk about them briefly here, which had been part of the Archduchy, but predated Cheliax by more than a millennium, became an independent state. So we'll talk about Vir on its own. So there's a complex history here that relates to Cheliax, devil, deals and all kinds of stuff. And basically, the adventure path is someone becomes tyrannical, a group of adventurers rise up against him. The thing is, it sort of spoils the adventure path. Hey, you resurrect an old group of people, depose him, find a loophole, and call it a day. It doesn't really have details. It really doesn't. Alright. There's the nation's flag. It's symbol. So it is primarily bordered by Cheliax to the south and the shadowy Nidal to the east. To its north and west lie the waters of the Arcadian Ocean. Its major rivers are the Yobolis, which flows to the capital of Kintargo. Its tributary, the Caravosa, butchering probably these ones. Its major woodland is the Ravounel Forest, found in the nation's southwest. The Vir Islands lie off the coast, and its summers are warm and humid, and its winters are chilly, rainy, and foggy. It's actually a pretty nice place to be. Some other places are Argo Isle, Cape Dis, Deep Mar, Dismal Niche, Mendor Gap, the Mendor Mountains, Mount Emerian, Mount Rena, Mount Spire, the Northern Plains, the Rovinus Ditches, Urchin's Maw, Vale of Spires, Eubulis Harbor, and Eubulis River. If you want to visit any other locations, there is your list of locations you can visit. Now, who lives there? Well, Chelaxian humans are the majority of the population, with some Parisians after that. Halflings and Cambians, refugees from Cheliax, make another significant percentage of the population. The Mendor Mountains are filled with orcs and dromars, and are most common and most and are also most common to the nearby communities. The forbidding Ravounel Forest is populated by Strix, Fays, Hags and Changeless. Hags. Aquatic elves and half-elves make their homes in the Arcadian Oceans off the coast of Ravounel, in the hideous city of Irim, fighting sea monsters like Ulak Kinitz and sea dactyls. Giants and drakes hunt the Mendor Mountains, driven across the border by Chelish patrols. The northern plains have long been neutral grounds between Nidal and Cheliax, but shadow giants and Velstrax roam this area without regard for the borders. After the departure of those who remained loyal to Cheliax, most of Ravounel's citizens are optimistic they can build a country to be a fair and kind place, even if independence of Ravounel is less rich and grandiose than when it used to be an archduchy of Cheliax. So they've lost a lot by not being connected to the country. They never expected they could break away from the diabolic rule and force House Thrun to respect their independence, so they have rejoiced at the success regardless of any of the hardships it brings. Since Ravounel's banned slavery, the Bellflower Network has built a strong presence in the country. However, the Order of the Chain demands the government's cooperation in arresting escaped slaves, and some Kintargan nobles who retain business connections with Cheliax have begun kidnapping slaves and selling them. Gillian Bellius has been unable to put an end to this practice and might threaten the stability of Ravounel. Let's talk about who's in charge, because we have to talk about that nice lady we just mentioned, who used to be a vampire but got better. And here's a picture of Kintargo, Skyline. So the ruler is Dromia Julia Balance, who's the fourth Lord Mayor of Kintargo. Just as I'm mentioning, yes, she was a vampire for a bit. She got brought back to life, basically. And basically, after that, was behind the overthrowing and taking over of the nation. And the title Damia is the one that she uses now. It's an old term for a ruler that used to be in old Cheliax and was replaced. So she's linking back to the old ways of Cheliax pre-Thrune. It's a signifying that Ravounel's now outside Thrune's grasp, and she intends to follow the principles of the older nation, which is more of just a lawful nation. The latter also meaning it deliberately ambiguous that she can interpret it as a retort to House Thrune's provisions to these values. It's basically an indication that Ravounel's Cellist heritage is not being completely repudiated. Under Julia's leadership, Ravounel has established itself as a regional power. It does maintain cordial relationships with Cheliax and Diddle, but it doesn't really have the military force strength to enforce compliance, and is unable to afford alienating these allies. And so it has to use diplomatically preserve the harmony between its factions also, which is becoming difficult because then we also have tensions between Cheliax and Andoran. Oh, so much is going on. Now we talk about domestic politics, because the most influential group is, of course, the Civil Council, a group of noble houses and power brokers that replaced the old Court of Coin. Its members use their provisions as a reward for backing the rebellion, while those who supported Thrune found themselves depraved with wealth and influence. The Silver Council controls the trade, especially trade by sea, which is particularly important since the Mendor Gap, the major overland trade loop to Cheliax, was destroyed by the Silver Ravens to discourage Cheliax invasion. Since the military takeover by Cheliax is no longer an immediate threat, various groups have begun to second-guess the decision to block Mendor Gap. Other factions, like the Aquatic Elves of Dismal Niche, the Strix of Ravounel Forest, the Kings and Queens of Vir, each has their own essential trade commodities, military protections, and local insights. However, none of them is accustomed to coordinating with others, and all occasionally chaff with the central government's efforts to do so. The government does encourage their collaboration, which has led to frictions by differing demands. The Council of Peers gatherings where representatives of these factions the Council of Peers, which gather and represents these factions, can be a tense and divided conversations. So yes, it's still got a lot of Cheliax influence. Geographical position in economic and diplomatic domination of this region by Cheliax is a big thing. So it's sort of like, yes, they still have to remain in Cheliax's good graces. And House Thrune seems to accept its independence as unfortunate, but unchallenged. Even then, there are Cheliax agents which are determined to find a way to return Ravounel to Thrune control. And of course, they do have an agreement with the aquatic elf city of Irim. They protect the nation's ports and shipping lanes from pirates, and they help the elves search for a mysterious artifact called the Lornic Catalyst, while keeping the search secret from all land-dwelling elves, which is an odd thing to keep it secret from the land elves, but help the sea elves. So they are then trying to establish trade relations too. They still trade with Cheliax the most, exchanging goods like fish, marble, lumber, salt, silver, and other national resources. They do have some tourism through Vir, is also crucial to the fledgling economy. And despite uncertainties regarding Vir's internact rulers sharing its wealth. So Vir, it's an independent city-state, it's not really connected, but it's still diplomatically connected with Ravounel, so you have to keep that in mind. It's one of those deep connections. Everything's connected in a way, and everybody's trying to find a way. So here's an upside picture of Kintargo, which we'll talk about in a second. We'll talk about the other cities. The other villages and cities and places. There's Asisazi, which is a small aquatic elven shoreline village in Ravounel, near the Ravounel's forest. So it is still part of the nation. It's a place between water-breathing elves and their air-breathing half-elven children. because it's a place that has a lot of above-ground, half-elven, half-aquatic elven children. There is a lot of aquatic half-elves, basically. It's a place to also connect those from other, probably, aquatic elves from the region with their children, a place they can live near the water and connect with their culture. Cypress Point is 40 miles northwest of Kintargo, and it's the furthest northern part of their coast. It's the largest settlement in East Ravounel and east of the Yoblis River. Sembra Cove is next to the border and is a meeting point in the Hell Coast of Cheliax, so near Cheliax border. Hastika is a small village in the Ravounel Forest and home to the Strix Kitastika tribe. They isolate themselves from a lot of human conflict until the defeat of the Grundlesworn sisters encouraged them to pursue careful and cautious negotiations. So they are connected with the human civilized groups. And Witterrock is a city on the bank of the Yoblis River, 50 miles south of Kintargo. It's maintained by the wealth of House Gilerto, originally a stop where rocks mined from the Gilerto quarries were smoothed and cataloged for shipping to Kintargo. So, yep. There's some farmers and ranchers around there, too. And its ruler, Canton Gilarto, is a casual and disinterested, viewing as kind of an easy life, basically, after getting his family's place in the Silver Council. You know, so he's just kind of hanging out there, like, yeah, I control this area. Yeah, whatever, we do stuff here. Let's talk about Kintargo, the Silver City, the capital of Ravounel, to finish up. It's situated on Nisroch Bay, on the mouth of the Yublis River. It has a harbor for ships heading north to Varisia and west to Anchor's End. It is divided by this river mouth into two areas of the city. And like much of Ravounel, summers are warm and humid, winters are long, cold, rainy, winters with heavy fog. So the districts, there's the North Kintaro and South Kintaro, and each of these has their own districts that are kind of divided. And the two houses are connected by the Bleak Bridge, which is open publicly and sternly prohibits the collection of any tolls on it. There are then 8 districts between these north and south, 3 in the north, 5 in the south. In the north there's the Greens, which is dual-walled noble district. Schools make up the Veilgri district in northwestern Kintaro, such as the Alabaster Academy. As of 4719, emissions of these institutions have recently fallen alongside rents, making it viable for newcomers to the city. And of course, then the Yoblis Harbor is on the north side, because the deep water of the river is there. So the south shore is lined with merchants, with the Bleak Bridge itself doubling as its main marketplace. In the south is the Castle District. The Castle Kintaro is the seat of government. Jarvis End is the arts and nightlife scene with its opera house. Old Kintargo was the old port before it moved to Yublis Harbor. It was the original port. Red Roof is the residential and commercial buildings. The lower and middle class housing is there. It had some Cambian slums during Cheliax's rule. And of course, Temple Hill is anchored by the People's Temple, which serves as the current seat of government under Ravounel. So the castle was the seat of government under Cheliax, and it's more just administrative, military, and prison under Ravounel. And in Temple Hill, People's Temple serves as the current government. And it was the Temple of Asmodeus under House Thrun, and the Temple of Eredin under Old Cheliax. Silver Council technically rules here. And of course, you've got major organizations, the Silver Ravens, the Order of the Torrent, a Hell Knight group which was, during the rebellion, joined with the rebellion because Lord Mayor Brazil Thrun basically outlawed their order, took them over, and placed them to the Order of Rack. So the Order of Torrent, who are known for helping out and rescuing kidnapped individuals. That is their modus operandi. Hunt kidnappers and rescue their victims. Now, make a new home in Castle Kintaro, a military place. They've been given a place there, and are a more lawful group, of course, there. And there's also a couple other fractions that find themselves within the city and at the powerhouse behind Ravounel, because Ravounel, Kintargo, is the most important type there. But yeah, that's our look at a new-ish nation. What is it? 7 years old? Yeah, that's it. A 7-year-old nation, which still is a place that has deep ties. It itself being this place that had been kind of settled for over 1,000 years at this point in time, a region that has, for over 1,000 years, was not ruled over directly by anybody until maybe about 100 years ago when the Thrunes directly took control of the area region. It was kind of on its own. And so, yeah, of course it was going to rebel. You know, they always were just part of the region and just kept in good faith probably with old Cheliax, certainly, that were kind of part of it just as they were kind of part of Taldor. Just an interesting kind of position that they've been always unofficial territories. You know, not on paper they're territories, but people are like, yeah, we're kind of part of you. Sure. It's just such a really rich and interesting history on that part of it. And then, of course, we get to this point in time where we are this burgeoning nation, which probably matches a lot with some of the other big nations. You have to remember, certainly it's not the kind of place like Andoran, which is a parliamentary democracy. It is a confederation with a domina, basically like a ruler, but also this major council which governs over it. You know, these two things combined, the Silver Council and the domina, are what creates the nation as it is. It has created this place, though, that does value a lot of things that places like Andorra probably value more, but they walk this fine line with Cheliax, too. Cheliax has evolved and gone through a lot of stuff, but they've remained tensions with Andorra, and especially, you know, with Thrunes still in charge of Cheliax after everything that happens. You know, Hell's Rebels, Hell's Vengeance, all those big adventure paths that took place there. It caused a lot of things. As I said, you know, the Glorious Reclamation, which rose up against House Thrune, you know, did some good, you know, for other people there, too. And caused a lot of effects. But now, we have a new nation, someone that's trying to find a voice between all these disparate people that are there that have different ideas about how things should go and how this new nation should burgeon. And that argument could cause internal strife, but they're not in a position where they can do that term strife. So they really are just doing their best. And honestly speaking, it's an interesting result for the adventures that took place there. And an interesting new nation to see what will happen to it in the years to come. I'm curious. You know, I would love to see, you know, give it a decade and see how it evolves. But we'll leave that today for here, talking about Ravounel. I'm probably butchered this name a billion times. I'm going to say that here. If you want to check out other stuff that I do, tabletop related, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays a backup day if I miss any of those. Thursdays are the Pathfinder day. I talk about Pathfinder topics, like ancestries and locations. The rest of the days I have other topics. It's usually early to mid-afternoon. Crimson Queen, it's Pathfinder First Edition, taking place in Carvosa, nearby in Varisia. We're doing the adapted version of the Crimson Throne. So check that out, 9 p.m. EST on my channel on Wednesdays. And then Discussing Tabletops on Saturdays. It's my other tabletop discussion show. We talk about news of the week, some really interesting deep discussion topics in tabletop. That's at 6 p.m. on Saturdays. That's my basic schedule. Checking out all the tabletop stuff goes up on my YouTube channel later on. So if you can't miss this, join me live. You can always check it out on YouTube. I recommend both. It's really fun. I mean, hey, you can always join us live and check it out later. Or if you can't join us live, check it online. Or, you know, maybe you want to rewatch some of this stuff too. Learn more. I have social media. Right now it's just the Discord and Twitter.com, link below. It's scheduled, going live updates, cat pics, that kind of things, and occasional life thoughts. Mostly on Discord, occasionally on Twitter.com. that's it for today. I'm going to get going. I thank you all for joining me. It's been really fun. I've enjoyed talking about Ravounel and diving into these topics, and I hope you enjoyed learning about this one, and we'll talk about more places like this in the future. But until the next time we chat about this, I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.